So Stephanie Dowrick, who I don't know, but a beautiful quote here: "Let love be the foundation of your life." And Swami Kripalu, I'm sure, would agree with that. Let love be the foundation of your life, the ground of your being, a place of forgiveness and gratitude, delight and awe, a ceaseless source of hope. And so as we go through some very physical movements today, we're going to warm up the joints and the spine. We're going to deepen the breath. We're going to get into some big body stretches. And as we make those shapes with the body and go through a posture sequence, the invitation is to really stay connected to that ground. It's a practice of self-love, taking care of the body, nourishing the body, nurturing the body, bringing more suppleness and ease to the body. And that penetrates from the physical down into the energetic, the way that prana flows through the system. And then that penetrates down into the deeper layers of the mind, the instinct and intuition, and the spirit, to the soul. And so we start with the gross, but it's affecting everything inside. It's affecting those deeper, richer layers. And so as you go through the postures, if anything I lead doesn't feel good in your body, don't do it. Keep in mind self-care, self-love, self-protection, non-harming, ahimsa, always and forever, on and off the mat. So let's begin. Come on up to standing. Let's start in mountain pose. You're going to have your blocks up front ready to go. And begin by resting a hand over belly and a hand over heart. Starting in mountain pose with the feet about hip width apart and parallel. Spread the toes nice and wide. Balance the weight evenly between the ball of the foot and the heel. And you might just give a tiny little rub, just a little circling right around the heart and the belly, just inviting those areas to soften, to relax, to be at ease. So much going on in the world right now. It can feel very, very topsy-turvy. Time of uncertainty. And so just coming back to what you know to be true in yourself. And just feeling into that. You can let the breath deepen, breathing through the nose if that's comfortable. And using the breath as a way of massaging your innards, massaging the self with the breath. The practice of self-soothing, self-regulation, and self-love. And let that circling or rubbing come to stillness. Sense and feel the whole body this morning. And set your intention for practice. And release the hands down. The eyes open, step the feet together, bend the knees and circle knees and ankles. Make sure there's contact between those inner legs. We're going to start with that sequence I teach often here, working to loosen up the joints first. Notice how it's feeling today. Let's change direction. I was on vacation last week and by the ocean in Maine. It's very cool and windy, and I was just loving doing my practice outside. It's really, really nice. So it feels sort of new to be back inside again, back on my yoga mat inside. Gently stand up, bring the hands to the hips, step the feet out a little wider apart, bend the knees and hula hoop the hips. And just start to deepen the breath, noticing if there's any tension or tightness in the low back and hip region. In Ayurveda, which is yoga's sister science, a system of medicine from India that's about 5,000 years old, you can change direction. So in Ayurveda, we would say that if we're noticing dryness or crackiness, pops in the joints, that there's elevated vata dosha, a kind of energy that's made of space and wind. And it accumulates during this windy, dry, cool season. This is the vata season of the year, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. And so you might notice that accumulating in your joints. And so we want to balance that out with synovial fluid. We want to get it nice and juicy in there. Come on back to neutral. Heel toe the feet into about shoulder width apart. Release the arms down and circle the shoulders. Deepen the breath. So we want to warm up the joints. We want to lube them up, getting a kind of internal oleation to balance that dryness outside. And just like this time of year, we would kick up hydration, warm teas and things like that, and oil massages. We want to massage the body on the yoga mat too, change direction. So invite the heat to build. Invite the heat to build. Let your circles be nice and smooth. Make sure there's no place where the joints are getting grinded in any way. You don't want to grind the joints or force the joints. Just want to open them up. And then release those shoulders down. That was a nice long round. So you should feel kind of toasty there. Let's open and close the fingers. You can kind of shift the weight a little from foot to foot as you open and close the fingers, kind of kicking back the feet. Circle the wrists a couple of times. I always laugh when I see myself doing this one on camera. This is kind of a funny warm up, but it does do the job pretty well. Change direction. And then release the feet and the hands down. Let's take it to the head and neck. Very gently, extra gently, circle the head and neck. Try to avoid cracking and popping. Never force any part of your body, but be extra gentle with the neck. That important channel between the head and the heart. In Ayurveda, yoga sister science, we say that the head and the heart are uniquely connected. Change direction. And so just inviting that channel to flow more gracefully while we physically loosen up the cervical spine, helping to release tension, tightness. This is good for headaches. It's also very useful for constipation, which often kicks up in these cold, dry months of the year. Come on back to neutral. And let the eyes open. Interlace the fingers. We're going to interlace them inward. So fingers go inward and then bring the heels of the hands together. And then forearms together, start to circle the wrists. Circle the wrists. And breathe into the back of your heart here. Let the back ribs open with breath. Loosening up the wrists, waking up the channels in the arms. Let your breath be nice and broad, nice and wide in that back body. Change direction. And sometimes that's tough, going in the non-dominant direction. You might notice some challenge showing up there. So waking up the wrists and lacing the fingers this way, in this inside way, really does help to get the outer wrist and forearm a little more open. And gently release those arms down, but interlace the fingers the kind of normal way, and then press the palms forward. Press the palms forward. Take a couple deep breaths here. I'll give you the side view. You can bend the knees a little bit, tuck the chin, and breathe into the upper back. Just opening all that up. And send the arms up overhead. You can keep the legs bent. Bend the elbows a little bit. Plug the arms down into the sockets. Breathe into the side ribs. So waking up the legs as we stretch open the side ribs. That's where a lot of clutter can accumulate, a lot of congestion. You want to clear open the lymph. And then send the arms out to the sides and down. Bring them back behind you, pressing the palms towards one another, drawing the shoulder blades together, and then breathe into the front of the chest. Breathe into the front of the heart space now. Opening up those intercostal muscles between the ribs. We want to open them up in all sides of the heart space. The 360-degree way that the heart radiates. And then gently release the hands to the hips and stand up. Take a few sun breaths right from here. Inhale the arms out to the sides and up overhead. Exhale the arms out to the sides and down. Inhale the arms out to the sides and up overhead. Exhale the arms out to the sides and down. Just a few more like that. Really getting more motion in the shoulders, waking up the shoulder joints. Lubing those up as we stretch the side body, opening up the sides of the heart space, sides of the lungs. It's really good for morning congestion and sluggishness. Let's take one last sun breath. And return to a neutral spine. Step the feet out just a little bit wider apart for empty coat sleeve twists. So we're going to be lifting the opposite heel as we go from side to side. So you can begin to swing the arms, giving a little tap to the opposite shoulder and opposite kidney. Head and neck are following the twist. But we're doing the sort of the old school Kripalu version of this, where we lift the opposite heel. I don't lead this very often, but we're getting just a little bit more momentum here, a little more waking for the arms, a little more upward stimulation. The way I usually lead it is a little bit more grounding, keeping the feet steady. So we're just going to get a little more upward flow and gently come on back to center. Too many of those, you can get dizzy. So we don't want that. We just want to get prana circulating without getting lightheaded, right? So come on back to center, just take a few breaths and notice like what has happened in the heart with that. Do you feel the heart rate increase? Does the body feel warmer? Does the mind feel more alert? Get this upward flow of prana. Now let's take the hands to the hips and bring the weight over to the left foot. Turn the right foot out 90 degrees. Lift that heel up off the mat. Hug the belly in. And then inhale the left arm out to the side and up overhead. On the exhalation, press the hips to the left and reach gently to the right. Just a little mild side bend. You can gaze up or down as you like, but start to deepen your breath in those left side ribs. Get right in there with your breath. You can even explore little micro movements, just kind of swaying the torso a little bit forward and back to get the different strands and lines of stretch in that left side body. Next inhalation, rise back up to neutral. And then exhale that left hand down and step the right foot back to center. And just take a moment to pause. You might even close the eyes for a moment and just compare the two sides of the torso. Maybe that left side feels more open. And then as the eyes open, switch the weight to the right leg and foot, step the left foot out 90 degrees, lift that heel, hug the belly in, inhale the right arm out to the side and up overhead. Bring length to your body as you do that so you get a little taller. And then on the exhalation, press the hips to the right, reach gently to the left. Don't try to crank over at all. You know, it's just a little baby side bend here. Just want to open up this side body and breathe into it. And that's really where the work is. So start sending your breath into the right side ribs. Flare those ribs open like the gills of a fish. Finding a comfy position for your head and neck. I usually prefer to look down here. And you might add those little micro movements, just swaying the torso a little bit here and there, getting into those nooks and crannies. There should be no pinching in your back, especially the low back. You know, if you're kind of like cranked way over, it might be pinching or it might be affecting your breath. And from Swami Kripalu's point of view, we might say that that would be preventing self-care and self-love. So we want to keep ahimsa happening, right? Just keep it gentle, keep it gentle. And then on the next inhalation, rise back up to neutral and exhale that right arm down, step back to center, bring a hand to belly, bring a hand to heart. Let the eyes soften or close for a moment. Just feel the imprint of that. You might feel the core is a little more awake, the thighs, the buttocks, the abdominal muscles, just a little more alert. And then slide the hands to the hips or to the thighs as the eyes open, bend the knees for a little cat-cow. Nice deep breath here. And as you exhale, tuck the tailbone around the spine, release the head and neck. As you inhale, lift the tailbone, open the chest, lift the gaze. Exhale to round forward into the forward bend. Hands slide down the thighs. Inhale as you open the front body into the back bend. Hands slide up the thighs, back and forth at your own rhythm. And we're just playing with the order, the sequence of these warm-ups today, just switching it up a little bit. And notice how the spine feels, the low back, the mid back, the upper back. This is such a familiar kind of movement in yoga. How does it feel today? Using beginner's mind to really sense what's happening in your system in this brand new moment. Let's take one last set. And then make your way back to neutral and stand up. Readjust to the front of your mat. We'll get into a sun salute. We'll start with a half round. So blocks right in front of you. And I'm going to use the highest position for my blocks. You could use a lower position if you prefer. Have your feet about hip width apart, power up the legs, engage the core. You can even use a little ocean sounding breath, some ujjayi if that feels good. And let's begin with the sun breath. Inhale the arms out to the sides and up overhead, palms touch. On the exhalation, hands come down the center line, bend the knees, fold forward. Hands to the blocks, blocks right into the shoulders, release the head and neck, supported forward fold. On the next inhalation, straighten the arms, flatten the back, coming into supported pike. Knees can be bent as we warm up. And then exhale and fold. Round the spine, release the head and neck. Back to that supported Uttanasana. On the inhalation, swing your arms forward, rising up to chair pose, step 1. Arms pause at shoulder height. On the exhalation, sink into chair pose, step 2. Sit in that imaginary chair. Go as low as you like. On the inhale, straighten the legs, send the arms up overhead, extended mountain pose, palms touch. And then exhale the hands down the center line. And we begin again. Inhale, nice, smooth, deep breath, palms touch overhead. Exhale, fold down the center line, bending the knees as much as you like. Hands to the block, forward fold. Inhale, pike position. Straighten the arms, flatten the back, look forward. On the exhalation, fold, opening up the back of the heart, stretching the back body. Inhale, swing the arms forward, rising up, chair pose, step 1. Float the arms into the sockets. On the exhalation, sink in, chair pose, step 2. Going as low as you like. Inhale, rise, extended mountain pose. Get a little bit longer in the side body. You might wiggle that waist long. And then exhale the hands down the center line. One more half round. Inhale, deep, smooth breath. Palms touch overhead. Exhale, fold down the center line. Bending the knees to protect the back as we warm up. Uttanasana. Inhale, straighten the arms, flatten the back, look forward. Ardha Uttanasana, the pike. Exhale and fold. Round forward, opening up the back of the heart. Inhale, gracefully rise up, chair pose, step 1. Exhale, sink in, chair pose, step 2. Inhale, rise, extended mountain pose, palms touch. Exhale, the hands down, the center line to the heart, and pause. And just take a breath or two here, noticing what has shifted in the way prana is flowing through your physical body. Can you sense energy circulating, tingling, vibrating, throbbing, signs of aliveness in that upper body? And now let's bring more of that to the lower body. So we're going to add in some lunge, a plank, and down dog, coming into a variation of the sun salute. Here we go. Inhale the arms out to the sides and overhead, starting the same way, palms touch. Exhale, fold down the center line, supported Uttanasana. Inhale, straighten the arms, flatten the back, look forward, supported pike. And on the exhalation, step the right foot back to lunge. Take the blocks back with you, walk them back with you so they're right under the shoulders, and then begin to pulse that lunge. Bend and straighten the legs, loosening up. And just move with your breath here, and pumping or massaging the legs. You might think about that self-love as being a way of grounding ourselves and rooting ourselves in the world. And so we're just kind of pumping the legs with prana, or pumping the legs with goodness, pumping the legs with love. And next time the left knee bends in lunge, pause there. Line up that front shin to be vertical. Press back through the right heel. Hug your belly in to engage your core. You're welcome to stay down here in the lunge. There's a lot happening here. If you want a balance challenge, start to walk the hands up that left thigh and unfold from the hip. You can keep the hands on the thigh, or for a little more challenge today, send the arms all the way up overhead, coming into high lunge or warrior one. Back heel's lifted here. And then let's all add just a little pump, just a tiny little pulse, waking up the stabilizing muscles. Hug the belly in, keeping the core engaged. Try to soften the muscles in your face, relax the muscles in your shoulders. Invite the heat to build here. Just a little micro movement, little pulse. And then the next time you exhale, float the hands down to the blocks. Move them out of the way, hands to the floor. Step that left foot back to plank. Spread the fingers nice and wide. Firm up the legs, hug the belly in, lengthen from the heels to the crown. One more deep breath here in plank. And on the exhalation, lower the knees to the mat, uncurl the toes, grab a block and sink the hips back to the heels. Rest the forehead on the block. Let the elbows go wide. Soften the belly. Breathe and relax. And if it would feel good, explore little micro movements here, like swaying from left to right, loosening up the low back and hips. Excuse me. You might roll the forehead across the block. It's one of my favorite things to do in the morning, is loosening up tension across the brow. Of course, for pregnancy, whenever we come down into this position, you want to have the legs spread a bit so there's no compression on the belly. Let's take a couple breaths into the back of the heart here. And then on the next inhalation, pull yourself back up to tabletop. Move that block out of the way. Spread the fingers wide, curl the toes under, and on the next exhalation, lift the knees coming into plank. Let's take 2 rounds of breath here. Stay nice and firm here, building that connection to the ground. And on the exhalation, lift the hips, press back through the heels, downward facing dog. And if it would feel good here, start to pedal it out, walking in place and just stretching out. Sometimes for me, when I come into down dog, it's like I just feel this spontaneous Kripalu sigh kind of coming on. The body just knows it so well. It's so familiar. It's such a soothing pose. But that may not be true for you, right? You might be experiencing some tension or tightness. And so just working to smooth it out. And on the next exhalation, step the right foot forward between the hands into lunge. So the right foot steps forward. You can grab your blocks, readjust the blocks under the shoulders, and then begin to pump the lunge on this side. So now the right foot is forward. And just move with your breath here. Just massaging the legs, keeping the breath nice and steady, and noticing how this side feels. Usually one leg is a little tighter than the other. Be aware of what's going on in your joints here. Do they feel like they're a little more limber, a little more juicy? Now that we've warmed up the joints, getting into the major muscle groups now. And next time the right knee bends, pause there in the lunge. Really line up that right shin to be vertical. It's important for safety for that right knee. And press back through the left heel. You can stay here and lunge. Or if you want a little more challenge, walk the hands up the right thigh. Start to unfold from the hips. You get a little more vertical in the spine. Back leg is strong. You want to press through that heel, even though the heel's lifted. And then if you want a little more challenge, send the arms up overhead today, reaching up through the fingertips, but soften the arms down into the sockets. Relax the tops of the shoulders. Relax the muscles across the jaw and the brow. Smooth out the breath. And then add just a little pulse, just a little baby pump right here. Adding a little heat, helping to boost metabolism. It's great in these cooler days of the year. Getting close to the full moon this weekend. Saturday is a full moon. We also have a lunar eclipse, which is a pretty big deal. A lunar eclipse this Saturday. Next week is Halloween. We'll be practicing. If you join me next week, it'll be Halloween, and I encourage you to dress up. I will have some kind of Halloween outfit on next week, next Tuesday. Now, on the exhalation, release the hands back down to the blocks. Inhale, bend the back knee, get a little spring in that foot. And as you exhale, step the left foot forward alongside the right. Readjust the blocks forward. Inhale, flatten the back, straighten the arms, look forward, pike, and hold. So you might shift the hips a little from side to side, kind of wiggle the waist long. Legs could be straight now that we've warmed up, or you can keep them bent if that feels better for your back. See if you can lengthen the front of the torso just a little bit. And then on the next exhalation, fold around the spine, release the head and neck. You might lower the height of the blocks, coming into Uttanasana. And here again, legs can be bent or straight, whatever feels good for your legs and back. Might feel good to sway a little side to side here. You might even give the legs a little rub. It's one of my favorite things to do, is just a little rub in Uttanasana, a little massage. And then let's prepare for chair pose, Utkatasana. So on the next inhalation, bend the knees and swing the arms forward, rise up smoothly and slowly, come up slowly, arms at shoulder height. On the exhalation, sink down in that imaginary chair. Soften the shoulders, relax the face. You can stay like this, or if you want a little more challenge, lift the heels, coming into a balancing chair pose. You can keep the arms forward, or sometimes I like to bring the arms back behind. And so you can play with that, kind of like we did in that warm-up. Draw the shoulder blades together, drawing the palms towards one another. You might lift the hips, the heels a little higher, and then fold forward from the hips. You come down a little lower, a little more of a forward fold here. And just smooth out the breath. It's like a bird balancing on a perch. And we're in a moment, we're going to shift up to extended mountain pose. But if you want to do that with a balance challenge, you can keep your heels lifted. And that's what I'm going to do today. If you don't want the balance challenge, just lower your heels back down. So here we go. Inhale, swing the arms forward. And then start to send the arms up overhead as the legs straighten. Heels might lift a little higher. Balancing extended mountain or extended mountain, you choose. Take 2 more deep breaths here. And then on the exhalation, release the heels down if they're lifted. See if you can get just a little bit taller here. And then on the next exhalation, open the arms out to the sides and down, just like we did in the sun breaths. And then rest a hand over belly, rest a hand over heart. Let the eyes soften or close, and just take a few moments to feel the imprint of that posture series. Notice if anything has warmed up, loosened, softened. Maybe the heart rate has shifted. Can you breathe into the heart space here? Invite that heart to radiate in all directions. Feel your feet against the mat. Do they feel more rooted, more connected downward? How has your mountain pose shifted? And let the eyes drift open, releasing the arms down and readjusting your mountain alignment. And we're going to come into a few balancing postures now. And so we'll begin with mountain pose with the feet about hip width apart. If you are working with a balance challenge, you might want to be near a wall so that you can hold on to that wall, or a sturdy chair back, something like that, so you can have a little balance support. Otherwise, just kind of in the center of your mat. Let's power up the leg muscles, hugging those muscles around the bones. Engage the core, hugging the low belly in. Lengthen the spine, reaching up through the crown. And then find a focal point for the gaze. So maybe not the phone or computer, but watching something that doesn't move, something steady, something pleasing to the eyes. And then inhale the arms out to the sides and pause at shoulder height. And then turn the palms up and soften the shoulders and the elbows just a little bit. It's like you're holding a huge bowl, or holding the sun or the full moon, holding the full moon in your arms. And then very slowly begin to lift the heels up off the mat, peel the heels up off the mat. Keep the upper body supple, keep it smooth, breath nice and steady, facial muscles relaxed, shoulder muscles relaxed, even the palms of the hands very receptive, open, soft. But the low body is doing some work, right? Hugging those thigh muscles around the bones, buttocks are engaged a little here, the abdominal muscles are engaged. There might be a wiggle in the ankles. Don't worry about that at all. Just focus on elongating, lifting. Now, heat may start building up in the arms here, so try to keep those shoulders soft. Once in a while, you might kind of scrunch them up to the ears and then soften them back down. Breathe and relax into this. Feel all the various body parts that are engaged in this balancing pose. And watch as the sensations change. As you build stamina, build endurance, build heat, help to boost metabolism, build strength. Breathe, relax, feel, watch, and allow your body to be transformed into a new state of power, new state of comfort. These final breaths, you might lift the heels just a little higher, or you might lower the heels down a fair amount, so you're just hovering over the ground. So you don't always have to go up higher to get more sensation. You can just experiment, see what feels good for you. Again, shoulders and face, soften, soften. And on the next exhalation, slowly and with control, lower the heels back down to the mat. And then rotate the palms downward and slowly lower the hands down. You might rest a hand over belly, hand over heart again. Let the eyes soften or close and feel what's going on in your feet, your ankles, your calves. Can you sense the rooting downward? Is there a river of circulation down there that you can sense? Those feet might feel tired. They might feel really energized. And let the eyes open. Slide the hands to the hips. Keep that mountain alignment, right? So feet should still be all steady and ready to go. Power up those legs, engage the core, lengthen the spine. Focus your gaze on one point. And then shift the weight over to the left foot and the left leg a little bit. Bend the right knee, lifting that right heel up off the mat. And just pause there for a moment. And really root down into that left leg. Start breathing downward. And you can float the right foot up off the mat, lifting it up just a little bit. Or if you want more challenge, keep hugging your belly in and lift that right knee up higher. So about as high as the hip or maybe higher. And you can stay like this in the beginning of crane pose. Or you can send the arms out to T position with the palms down. Let the fingers droop and then bend the elbows. On the inhalation, scrunch the shoulders up to the ears. On the exhalation, totally relax the shoulders down the back. And you can keep sharpening the bend at that right hip, kind of drawing that right knee up towards the right shoulder. And just smooth out the breath. Breathe downward. Breathe down towards the belly. Breathe down towards that left leg. Try to keep the upper body soft. Hug your low belly in, keeping the core strong. And on the next exhalation, carefully and mindfully, lower the right foot and the hands down together as one flow. And then even out the weight in the legs and feet, and then just pause. Try not to shake off the sensation, but just be with it. Just pause and be still for a few moments. Sometimes there's a tendency to kind of shake off the stretch, and we actually want to bathe in it. We want to bask in it. We want to feel the true effects of the pose. We're just sensing that, and it should kind of smooth out on its own. Bring the hands back to the hips, let the eyes drift open, and shift the weight over to the left foot, or to the right foot and the right leg. And then power up that leg, hug the belly in, lift the left heel up off the mat, and just pause there for a moment. So you're in sort of a staging position. Focus your gaze, smooth out your breath, start breathing downward towards that right leg to really root your prana down into that right leg. And then very slowly and mindfully, lift and peel the left foot up off the mat. And you might just hover there. You can stay low with the foot and leg, or with that core engaged, low belly engaged, you can lift the left knee up a little higher. You can stay like this, or send the arms out to T position. Let the fingers droop, bend at the elbows. Crane, or one of the variations of crane. Keep the gaze steady, keep the low belly engaged. Soften the face, soften the shoulders. You might even scrunch and release. If you're feeling pretty comfy here, just keep sharpening the bend there at the hip. So draw that left knee up a little higher, a little closer towards that left shoulder. Smooth out the breath. Standing balancing poses like this help to enhance focus and concentration. So holding a balancing pose also really requires a kind of ease and comfort. So you want to avoid getting rigid here. There's often a little sway, there's often a little shake. That's okay. Don't try to prevent it or don't try to clamp down on your body. Just lengthen up through the crown, keep hugging the belly in, try to soften into that wiggle. And then on the next exhalation, carefully lower the foot and the hands down together with control. And then even out the weight distribution in the legs. Bring the hands to belly and heart. If it's comfortable, let your eyes close and just feel the whole body standing. Again, try to avoid shaking it off. Just sense the true effect of the pose. So you might be noticing it in the glute and the hip, the calves, the ankles, the tops of the feet, the toe muscles may have been engaged. How has it affected your mind, your clarity, your presence? And does the heart space feel soft? As the eyes open, bring the hands to the hips, step the feet wider apart. So I'm going to go wide on my mat, but you could step right off the sides of your mat if you want. Toes point out a bit, bend the knees, sinking down into the goddess position. Hands are going to slide to the inside line of the thighs. Okay, fingers point inward. We're going to do a little goddess twist here. We've done this one before. Inhale and elongate the spine. On the exhalation, twist to the right. Sink into the squat. And then as you inhale, unwind to the spine, rise up a little bit. On the exhalation, twist to the left, sink down into the squat. We're going to go back and forth. Inhale as you rise, get a little height in the legs. On the exhalation, twist to the right, sink down into the legs. Inhale, you rise through center. Exhale, twist left, sink in. Nice and slowly like that. It's like slow motion from side to side. Sometimes we do this with a little peppy speed. Today we're doing it extra slow. This wringing out the spine, opening up the hips. It should feel really nice after that core work, that balancing, loosening everything up. This is the last set here. And then as you come back to neutral, straighten the legs. We're going to spin the heels out so the feet are parallel. And again, you could be stepped off your mats. Okay. Bend the knees a little bit, hinge forward from the hips, and just slide down into a wide leg ragdoll. You can hold opposite elbows and sway a little side to side. If it's comfortable, you can certainly have your legs straight. Otherwise, knees can be deeply bent. And just breathe into this. Just let the spine hang like a pendulum. And then slide the hands back to the hips. Let's all bend the knees a fair amount. Hug the belly in and start to unfold from the hip, coming up slowly and mindfully. And then once you're upright, heel toe, or simply step the feet back to mountain pose. We're going to transition down to the floor through a sun breath. Inhale the arms out to the sides and up overhead. Exhale, fold down the center line. Bend in the knees as much as you want. Grab opposite elbows into regular ragdoll. Sway a little side to side if you like. And then bring the hands to the floor. Step down onto hands and knees. And then we're going to simply press back to child's pose from here. So legs can be together or apart. You can grab a block if you'd like and release the forehead down to the block. Hips to the heels, forehead down. Melting into child's pose. And it might feel good to once again explore little micro movements here. Swaying, rocking, just massaging the body and feel for the groundedness of this pose. Very compact, very low, very earthy. Just coming back down to the ground and notice how the legs feel. They've been stretched in lots of different directions and now folded. You might reconnect with your intention here. And then on the next inhalation, pull yourself up to tabletop. We're going to sit down in hero's pose. And so you can spread the feet and knees a little wider apart and take 1 or 2 blocks right between the ankles and sit down on the block. So supported hero's pose. So from the back view, I'm sitting on the wide side of the block so that both sit bones can get there on the block. If you find that feels like it's a real sharp bend at your knee, then you can stack 2 blocks and sit back that way. And so that will give you a little more height, and that can feel a little better on the knees. You could also straddle your cushion or your bolster. And if you prefer to sit in cross-legged position, you're welcome to do that as well. And then take a few moments to even out the weight distribution in your legs, getting nice and comfortable and steady. Those are the principles for every yoga posture, comfortable and steady. Now you can work to even out the weight in the hips and elongate the spine. Pull the head back just an inch or two so it's right over the shoulders. Tuck the chin slightly so the back of the neck is long. Rest the hands on the lap. Let the eyes soften or close. Loosen up the jaw. Let the tongue rest at the base of the mouth. And begin controlling your breath. Breathing through the nose if that's comfortable. And moving into the 3-part breath, the long breath, the Dirga Pranayama. And so we begin as though we're pouring water into a vase, the torso being the vase. As you inhale, send the breath down towards the belly, let it fill like a balloon. And then sip in more air and fill the ribs. And then sip in a little more air and fill the upper chest. Stay nice and tall as you exhale thoroughly. Hug the belly in at the bottom, squeezing out the stale air. And then begin fresh. Fill the belly like a water balloon. Sip in more breath, fill the ribs. Sip in more breath, fill the upper chest and shoulders. Stay nice and tall as you exhale thoroughly, breathing all through the nose if you can. Squeeze empty at the bottom, and then begin again. First, fill the belly, then sip in more air to fill the ribs. Don't try to keep the belly full, just move to the ribs. And then sip in more air to fill the chest. Stay tall as you exhale thoroughly, squeezing empty at the bottom. So a few more rounds like that. Move at your own rhythm, loosening up the whole torso with your breath. It's a lovely technique for supporting the good circulation, helping to get a nice exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen, helping to loosen up tension and tightness in the torso. Using the breath to massage the internal organs. That's precisely what's happening. Using the breath to massage the internal organs. Let's take one more round. And then return to normal breathing, to natural breathing. And feel the imprint in the torso, noticing if anything has expanded or loosened or opened. If you have any congestion today, you might need to kind of clear that out with a tissue. We'll transition into the alternate nostril breath, the channel purifying breath, Nadi Shodhana. So if you know this one, you're welcome to begin. If you're newer to it, you might float the eyes open and take your right hand, tuck the index and middle finger down towards the base of the thumb. So you have a little clamp with your thumb and your ring finger. The thumb is going to gently close the right nostril. The ring finger will close the left nostril. Lengthen your spine, tuck your chin, soften your shoulders. And those doing it with me, close off your right nostril gently with your right thumb. Begin by inhaling up your left side. Inhale left. Then close the left nostril, lift the thumb, and exhale right. Exhale down the right side. Inhale back up the right side. Inhale right. We climb back up the same side. Switch at the top and exhale left. Exhale left. That's one cycle. Let's start again. Inhale up the left side, long, deep, smooth breath up the left side. Switch the fingers at the top and exhale down the right side. Exhale right. Inhale back up the right side, long, deep, smooth, satisfying breath up the right nostril. Switch at the top when the lungs are full and exhale down the left side. Exhale left. You're welcome to close the eyes if that's comfortable. Inhale left, refilling, recharging with fresh air. When the lungs are full, switch and exhale right. Try to relax into the exhalation. Then inhale back up the right side, long, deep, nourishing breath, refilling, recharging. When the lungs are filled, switch at the top and exhale left. Exhale left, softening and relaxing into that. Keep going at your own rhythm. Inhaling left to begin. And when you're full, switch over to the right side. You can speed it up or slow it down, whatever feels good for you. And if one nostril is a little more clogged, and just do your best without straining. You might need to take a little tissue break. This is a pranayama that helps to open up the channels of respiration. So you might need the tissue unexpectedly, even if you don't feel congested. You might start to loosen up congestion. So you may need to blow the nose. It's a technique that also helps to soothe the nerves, helping to deactivate the sympathetic nervous system and get the parasympathetic nervous system to be more in charge, the rest and digest nervous system. And of course, it's a pranayama that helps to enhance clarity in the mind, opening and balancing the channels in the mind. Let's take about a minute together in silence. Complete one more round, ending when you get back to that left side. We start and end on the left side traditionally. The moon channel, the lunar channel on the left. And when that's complete, return the hands to the lap. Turn the breath to its natural rhythm, keeping the spine long, the eyes closed or the eyes soft. Feel the imprint of the channel purifying breath, Nadi Shodhana. And then let the inner gaze roll up to the third eye point in the forehead, the seat of the instinct and intuition, the prefrontal cortex, the command center. And just notice what you are aware of there. Maybe colors or patterns, movements of light, images. Taking a few moments here to float and meditate at the third eye point. You might invite your awareness to kind of expand as though as an observer you could zoom back and take in a bigger, broader field at that third eye point. Take in as much as you can, a big, broad field of awareness at the third eye point as we share several moments of silence together. And if you'd like, you can continue sitting still in this third eye meditation. Or if you'd prefer a relaxation, then very, very easily lay yourself down. Let that transition be as though you're sleepwalking, just as smooth as possible, just laying yourself down using any props you need. So the choice is yours. Stay in meditation or transition into relaxation. We'll share several minutes of silence together. Begin to deepen your breath. If you'd like to stay where you are in relaxation or meditation, you're welcome to do that. If you'd like to close up with me, then as you deepen your breath, invite little movements into the hands and feet. And as the breath deepens, you can invite in some gentle stretching, maybe drawing the legs in or sending the arms up overhead, just waking the body. Eventually coming up to sit if you've been lying down. And you might rest a hand over belly and a hand over heart once again, maybe bringing that little circling action, little massaging right over the heart and the belly. And sense your whole body and the effects of your practice today. How has this been for you a practice of nourishment, of self-care, of self-love? And what might you do today to continue that kind of mindful inquiry? Nourishing foods, nourishing activities, nourishing entertainment choices. What would really support you today? You might let out an easy sigh through the mouth. And drawing the hands together, offering yourself some appreciation, giving yourself some gratitude. And let's offer that to one another. Om Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Kripalu Online Studio. I'm Larissa Hall Carlson. Hope you're feeling a little more in your body. And I look forward to seeing you next week. So I hope you'll join me next week. It is Halloween. And I will be wearing something Halloweeny next week. I invite you all to do that as well. It's not a requirement, but it's an option. And then we can share a little bit of that too. Halloween's for me. I'm an end of life doula, so I am happy to talk about all that stuff. So we'll bring in just a tiny little bit of that next week. I want to invite you as you close up today to say a little something in the chat. I'm going to come close to the